Case 623 by Danny Yu. Chapter 18. Later. Sir, Secretary Pierce, sir, please, I can explain.
I damn well hope you can, Jackson, for your own sake, so please do enlighten me. What could possibly have possessed your team to expose a pregnant asset to a near-lethal dosage of shock therapy? As battles went, this one barely counted. It was more of a skirmish. Might have counted as a back alley fight, except for how the Stark Tower most definitely did not count as a back alley. Between the built-in tower defenses and the current house guests, Tony didn't even manage to do more than keep the helicopters from crashing into pedestrians down on the street, which, considering the fact that he was supposed to have given this whole gig up just a few minutes earlier, was probably the best. Well, that was anticlimactic, he told Jarvis as he touched back down on the roof. Damage report. Minimal, sir, Jarvis said. It would appear the Hulk has some attachment to the current decor and went to some lengths to make sure nothing happened to it. Tony blinked. Well, who'd have known? He glanced over the information flashing across the HUD before getting ready to take off again. Could you tell Stephen Bruce I have to go fetch my kid back from S.H.I.E.L.D.? Certainly, sir, Jarvis said. But just set the course, Tony said. Please tell me they haven't gone off radar. No, sir, Jarvis said. But the Iron Cradle does not appear to be heading for the helicarrier. Tony frowned. Must have configured those algorithms wrong when I formatted the new mark. A short stab of worry went through him, but he shoved it away. There was bound to be a perfectly reasonable explanation here. Direct it. Search in progress, Jarvis said. Tony gritted his teeth, hovering, and this part was never something he dealt well with, especially when it came to Jamie. Tony sucked at waiting, and right now was absolutely not a good wait! Every moment he spent there, just hanging in midair, he could feel his anxiety rise, and panic would follow close on the heels of that experience. Told him! He could already feel the first tendrils wrap around him and... Agent Romanoff is calling, Jarvis informed. Shall I put her through? It should probably be embarrassing just how relieved that bit made Tony feel. He let out a breath. Yeah, he said. Yeah, do that. Stark, Natasha said. Tony squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, sucked the breath back in. Yeah, I'm here, he said. How are things? I'm in Rose Hill, she said. Something is definitely going on. Could you be a little more specific about that, please? Tony asked, trying to get his mind to switch back into some gear that wasn't screaming at him about how much he needed his son in his arms right the fuck now! Well, Natasha said, I visited the memorial, the place where Chad Davis set off the bomb, except 6 people died, including him, but only 5 impressions were left on the wall. I figured you may have some sort of insight here. Tony narrowed his eyes, tried to think it over. Somehow he burnt hotter, he said, which is difficult with the explosion being so hot already. He'd almost have to not just be at the epicenter, but be the epicenter, which... He frowned, because that was triggering something, nudging some puzzle piece closer to its actual place, but not enough that he could quite read it yet. What else? I talked to Davis's mother, Natasha said. She was supposed to meet with someone else, apparently. Had some dead soldier's file with her and everything. I established a connection, but had to slip out when her contact arrived. I did manage to get pictures of the file. Send them to me, Tony requested. A moment later, they were flashing onto the HUD. Tony skimmed through most of the information, trusting Jarvis to highlight anything that might make a difference. He frowned. Why is it marked MIA? Doesn't look like this guy was ever missing in action. And that was definitely a puzzle piece sliding into place. AIM. Sir, Jarvis said, the Mandarin has made another broadcast. Shall I stream it to the HUD? Yeah, Tony said. Yes, and send a copy to Natasha's phone. Right, Nat? Thank you, she said. The video streamed across the HUD, and Tony fucking couldn't take this on top of everything else, couldn't process this whole situation on top of everything else, couldn't muster up the energy to feel anything other than numbness at the hostage situation. Don't call him, Natasha was muttering, and Tony was pretty sure he wasn't supposed to hear that. Don't give them that, don't. And then Alice went on to give the Mandarin exactly what he'd wanted, and Tony watched along with the rest of the country, mostly just resigned to the whole thing at this point, as the hostage was shot anyway. If I want to get a call in with Rhodey, I better do it before the White House comes along and monopolizes his time. He muttered, Jarvis! Placing the call, sir, Jarvis replied. Tony, what? Natasha was saying. Why are they trying to lure War Machine or whatever Rhodes is going by these days into this mess? Why do you need to call him? Hello? Rhodey said. Hey, Tony said, do you think I should just go ahead and paint a target on the side of Stark Tower? Would that get me fewer or more unwanted drop-ins, do you think? A short pause, then, Tony, what? Don't roll your eyes at me, Sour Patch, Tony said. And don't pretend you aren't doing it either, I can hear it. It's literally like your voice is rolling its eyes at me, and that was a legitimate question. I did not deserve an eye roll. You deserved an eye roll, Rhodey said. What are you doing? Was the tower attacked again? Listen, Tony said. Your big rebranding, your new design, that was AIM, wasn't it? Yeah? Tony gritted his teeth because, yeah, he was still missing some pretty big pieces here, but he was beginning to see a picture, and he did not like it one fucking bit. Damn it, I need your login. It's the same as it's always been, Tony said. War Machine 68. And password, please. He could have had Jarvis hack it, but he preferred not to hack his friend's stuff if he could avoid it. It was rude, and it set a bad example for Jamie. Plus, with Rhodey, he only ever had to ask anyway. Look, I gotta change it every time you use it, Tony, Rhodey said. It's a pain in my ass. And you'd have to change it if I hack it too, Tony said. Just make this easy on us both. Give me your login. Rhodey gave that annoying, long-suffering sigh. Tony was half certain Jamie was only a few months away from learning to imitate, which was scary. War Machine rocks with an X, all caps, Rhodey finally said. No one in the world could have had anything bad to say about the fact that Tony burst out laughing at that. Yeah, okay, Rhodey said, but at least he was smiling. Tony could hear it, and he would testify to that if he had to. That is, Tony started and finally managed to calm his laughter. So much better than Iron Patriot. You know how difficult that was to explain to my son, by the way. I had to tell him that Captain America and Uncle Rhodey did not have a baby. Rhodey groaned out loud. Listen, the Secretary of Defense is trying to call me. I gotta go. Give Jamie my love. Go home for Christmas and give it to him yourself, Tony said, but he did allow the call to be cut. Jarvis, get into AIM for me, would you? A moment later, they were in and looking through what appeared to be video interviews, with Natasha still following along from her end. It was streaming to her phone, should be, if she hadn't disabled that function, along with everything else to do with video calls. There was Chad Davis talking about not letting his injury beat him, and there was... That was the woman who came looking for Miss Davis, Natasha said. Tony, she definitely had an arm when I saw her, and I'd swear on anything that it wasn't a prosthetic. They don't make them that lifelike and functional. Not yet, Tony muttered, making an absent-minded mental note to look into that. He had a very clear idea suddenly, and no clue where it had come from. Then there was a vaguely familiar man, Aldrich Killian, as Tony remembered from recent research. He still didn't actually recall meeting the guy, talking about addiction and how it wouldn't be tolerated. They're testing some kind of drug, Tony commented, and it's gotta be working. If that woman you saw had her arm back, strong stuff, but they have to keep a lid on it. No one wants addictive medication. Grimacing, he directed Jarvis to open the video files for the test trials. Extremists? Why did that sound familiar? Oh my god, he breathed. Hers is actually... Are they on fire? What the hell? He blew up, Natasha supplied, and even she sounded like she was having a hard time either watching the footage or processing it, or both. Tony wasn't sure he knew he was currently having a problem with damn near everything. Bombs that leave no casings, no trace, and burn so hard they incinerate everything around them, Natasha supplied. You said yourself that Davis was not on top of the epicenter. He was the epicenter, Tony said again. When's a bomb not a bomb? He let out a breath. A bomb's not a bomb when it's a misfire. This stuff doesn't always work. It's faulty. Buddy found a buyer, sold it to the Mandarin. Seems like it, Natasha said. Send me the files. All their way, Tony said. That still leads us to a dead end, Natasha said. We have no idea where the Mandarin is, or even where AIM operates from. I mean, sure, they'll have a nice office somewhere, but you know as well as I do that those will be cleaner than camp on Sunday morning. Jarvis, Tony said, can you run a trace? Factor in available AIM downlink facilities and see if you can pinpoint the Mandarin's broadcast signal from there. What do you think we're talking? Natasha asked. Far East? Europe? North America? Iran? Tony supplied. Pakistan. Natasha let out a groan that sounded strangely like a hiss. What? Tony asked. I thought we were done seeing who could list most country groupings and we're moving on to individual states. Jarvis, where is it? Actually, sir, Jarvis said, it's in Miami. Seriously? Tony asked. Can you bring that up on the screen for me? And, well, shit, it did say Miami, Florida. Sir, Jarvis added, I have picked up the iron cradle signal. It appears to be in Georgia. Georgia, Tony muttered. Why the hell is it in Georgia? What's in Georgia? Jarvis, track its course and set us to intercept. Can you get in touch with it? Setting a course now, Jarvis said. Sir, I am unable to establish communications with the iron cradle. It does not appear to be moving. Just like that, panic shot through Tony's whole body, gripping him with cold fingers until he was gasping, trying to curl in on himself. Jarvis took control of the armor with just enough time left to keep them from crashing, but that wasn't really much help. He couldn't breathe, could feel his throat tightening, couldn't properly see the HUD. Tony? Natasha was saying. Tony, what's going on? A pause, and then, Tony, breathe, slow, follow along with me. And then she was breathing into the phone, slow and steady, in and out, and Tony somehow managed to start copying her, slowly felt himself begin to regain some measure of control over his own body. Keep your mind clear, Stock, Natasha instructed. You need to keep it together and go get James. Are you all right to drive? Tony took a final deep breath, vaguely aware that Jarvis had taken them supersonic. Yeah, he managed, voice slightly rougher than he'd have liked. Jarvis will send you the files and the coordinates and stuff. I'm going to go. Good luck, she said. Then the call cut. What followed was pretty much the longest 17 minutes of Tony's life. As if from far away, he was aware of Jarvis trying to talk to him, but Jarvis wasn't a chatterbox at the best of times, and with Tony not really answering, he didn't talk much either. He was also sort of aware of fielding a phone call from Bruce and Steve back at the tower. He was pretty sure he managed to give them his destination and promised that he'd get back to them. Then somehow he was right there, right where the cradle was supposed to be. He managed a passable 3-point landing, and then all he could do was stare and try to keep breathing while his heart threatened to pound its way out of his chest. The iron cradle was there all right. It was empty.